We are live. Welcome back, happy quilters. This is our second live segment. The reason I'm here is for those of you who did not make the retreat, who couldn't be with us today, I have some cutting instructions for block B, which is the easiest block to strip piece. So I'm going to talk about blocks. So let's talk about block B. So block B is this block that you can see, and this is found on the website. So it has several units. And so I'm going to rotate my camera and I'm going to show you what you need to piece block B. Okay. So first of all, I took all of my pieces of fabric that we had earlier and I cut them into subunits. And so for this particular project, I cut strips that were 6.5 inches wide. I needed 8 of those because I'm going to turn those into smaller units later that I'm going to strip piece. I used 14.5-inch strips. So if you look on your diagram that's found on the website, you have 18-inch strips by 6.5. You don't need to sew anything. They're just cut to that size and they're going to be in the middle. Next, you're going to have pieces that are 14.5 inches by 2.5, but you're going to cut those 14 inches wide by width of fabric, and then you're going to sew 1 accent strip to either side. When you do that, you will subcut the entire thing, and this is what they end up looking like. They're quite long. So this is 14 inches long, and then I have 2 of these pieces on the outside. How I made those was by cutting a big long piece that was 14.5 inches long by width of fabric. And then I sewed 1 strip of accent on one side and 1 strip of accent on the other side. And so by sewing 14.5 inches in the middle, I sewed 1 strip on either side. You can cut these in half. Sometimes it makes it easier to sew strip sets that are only 20 inches long instead of 42. So it's personal preference, but you can just split it in half. Cut your fabric from selvage to selvage. And you can sew 1 on either side. And that is for the unit that goes right beside the center. Once you're done sewing on either side of this, you're going to subcut this unit into 2.5-inch strips, which end up looking like this. Your entire unit, every one of these subunits, should measure 18.5 inches. Okay? So you have these big long things that look like this, 18.5 inches long and 14.5 inches in the middle. You need 24 of these little guys right here. Now let's look at the next unit. So I've showed you this one right here. Let's look at the ones that are on either side of that. I'm going to call this Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, and Unit 4, because this is the same on either side, but they're just mirror image. Unit 2 says 10.5 inches by 2.5. That means you're going to cut a 10.5-inch strip by width of fabric, and you're going to sew an accent piece on either side and then a colored jelly roll piece on either side. And let me show you what that looks like. You're going to take, I'm going to lay this down and rotate it. You're going to take these big long pieces. And so this is 10.5 inches across the middle. I have sewn an accent piece on either side. And this is nice and wrinkly because I've been working on it. And then 1 colored piece on either side. And I made them 20 inches long because I wanted to use a variety of prints, and it just makes them easier to press and to put back together. You're going to want to press this first segment that goes along the center away from the white and towards the accent piece. And then these seams, depending on what is laying next to them, you're going to want to press those in a direction that makes sense so that your seams nest. So this is piece number 2. So piece number 2, same thing. This is the second piece right here in the middle that you see. And then you're going to take and you're going to subcut this into strips. And these should measure 18.5 inches long. And then the last segment is done exactly the same way, except you start with a 6.5 inch strip by width of fabric, and you're going to sew an accent piece on either side and 2 colored jelly roll strips. So when you get ready to sew that, let me move all of this to the side. You rotate that camera down so you can see. So I have a 6.5 inch strip right here, and I'm simply going to cut it, like I said, in half to make it easier to manage. I'm going to attach, just like I did to all the other strip sets, one of accent on either side, followed by 2 colored strips. So I'm going to put a strip here, and I'm going to put a strip here, and I'm going to sew accent, color, color, and the same on the other side. And again, I will subcut this into 2.5 inch squares so that all of my strip sets end up being 18 inches long. Now, how many pieces do you need? For this middle piece, you're going to need 12. So if you need some numbers for your strip sets, you're going to need 12 of this one right here because you're making 12 block Bs. So we're making 12 Bs, right? For this right here, you're going to need twice as many because you have one on either side. So you're going to need 24 for these 2 pieces. The same with this one here. You're going to need 24 total for these 2 pieces. And then here you're going to need 24 of this one for these 2 pieces. And these are the same identical units. So you do 12 for the middle, and then you do 24 so that you can complete your entire block. And this is for block B. I will be back in about an hour to talk about block A and how to construct block A using a strip piecing method. So if you could not make it today and you need to know how to strip piece this instead of the traditional method where you cut lots of little squares, then this is the method for strip piecing. Now you're going to need to buy extra yardage. So if you're doing the strip piecing method, you're going to need about a half a yard more than you did with the other method. But half a yard should get you what you need. And we're going to save the extra pieces for block A. So if you have any waste, don't get rid of it. We're going to save that for the next block. I'll be back in about an hour to show you how to piece block A.